My 30-year-old daughter cut me out of the family business until I became her biggest competitor. I taught her everything. From the moment she could walk, I brought her into my world. But the day she turned 30, she said I was too old to understand business anymore. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you raced, mentored, or trusted with everything? Share your experience in the comments. Hi, I'm Patricia Morgan, and what you're about to hear is not fiction. This is my life, my truth. I'm a 62-year-old woman who spent over 3 decades building a business from scratch, raising a daughter I thought would be my legacy. But legacy can turn to rivalry when ambition turns into greed. My daughter didn't just take over. She shoved me out and thought that was the end of my story. Well, she was wrong. This is a story about betrayal, resilience, and the quiet fire that burns in every woman who refuses to be discarded. Before we begin, I would be glad to know that my story gets to people in different parts of the world, so please let me know where you're watching from. Thank you so much for being part of this growing community. Every comment, every like, every share gives voice to people like me. I can still smell the ink from that first order, the way it mixed with sawdust in my garage. I was 32, a single mom with a toddler who thought cardboard boxes were castles. Morgan & Company started there, in a cramped space with one sewing machine and a dream bigger than my bank account. I'd stitch custom linens, curtains, tablecloths, late into the night while Clara slept in a bassinet beside me. Every sale was a victory. Every client a step towards something real. I wasn't chasing wealth. I was chasing survival. For me and my girl. You want to know what drives a woman to build an empire? I said once to a neighbor who asked why I worked so hard. It's not greed. It's knowing the world won't wait for you to catch up. Clara grew up in that garage, her tiny hands smudging my sketches with crayons. By 4, she'd toddle over, pointing at fabric rolls. Pretty, mama, she'd chirp, her curls bouncing. I'd laugh, scoop her up and say, one day you'll pick the prettiest ones for our customers. Like you? She'd ask, eyes wide. Better than me, I'd say, kissing her forehead. I meant it. I saw her as my future, not just my shadow. By the time she was 10, Morgan & Company had outgrown the garage. I rented a storefront downtown, a brick building with creaky floors and windows that caught the morning light. We sold linens, then added home decor, lamps, vases, anything that made a house feel alive. Clara would race through after school, rearranging displays like she owned the place. This pillow goes here, mama, she'd say, hands on her hips. It's happier this way. I'd grin, letting her shuffle things around. You're a natural, kiddo. Gonna be just like you, she'd say, her voice fierce. One day, I'll run it all. I believed her. God, I did. I poured everything into her. My time, my secrets, my heart. I taught her how to charm a client, how to spot a bad deal, how to keep the books so tight no penny slipped through. When she was 16, she'd sit with me at the counter, mimicking my pitch to suppliers. We need that silk by Friday, she'd say into a toy phone, her tone all business. Customers loved her, that spark in her eyes, the way she'd make them laugh. I'd watch, my chest swelling, thinking, this is my legacy. Her. Clara's got your fire, my friend Ellen said one day, leaning against the shop counter. We were unpacking a shipment of rugs, Clara humming as she priced tags nearby. More than mine, I said, smiling. She's gonna take this place further than I ever could. Ellen raised a brow. You sure you want her taking over so young? She's got big ideas. Let her, I said, brushing it off. Big ideas built this. She'll learn. I didn't see it then. The way Clara's ideas weren't just big but hungry. She'd started sketching her own designs, bold patterns I didn't always understand. These are modern, Mama, she'd say, holding up a neon-striped throw. People want new. I'd nod, adding a few to the inventory, but I stuck to what worked. Classic, timeless pieces our clients trusted. Balance, Clara, I'd say. We grow slow, we grow strong. She'd roll her eyes, just a flicker, but I caught it. Slow's boring, she muttered once, barely loud enough to hear. I let it go. She was young, eager. I thought she'd come around. By her mid-20s, Morgan & Company was more than a shop. It was a brand. We had a website, a warehouse, deals with boutiques across 3 states. I'd clawed my way to that, working nights while Clara studied marketing in college. She'd call from her dorm, buzzing with ideas. We need influencers, Mama, she said one night, her voice crackling through the phone. And a rebrand, something sleek. Influencers? I laughed, folding invoices at my desk. Our customers trust word of mouth, not strangers on screens. You're stuck in the 90s, she teased, but there was an edge to it. Let me try when I'm back. When she graduated, I threw her a party in the store, string lights twinkling, champagne bubbling. To Clara, I said, raising a glass. The future of Morgan & Company. She hugged me, her smile bright. We're gonna be huge, Mama, you and me. I believed her. I hired her full-time, gave her a corner office in our new headquarters, a converted mill with big windows and exposed brick. She was 24, bursting with energy, and I was 55, proud, but tired. I started stepping back, letting her lead meetings, charm suppliers. You've got this, I'd say, watching her pitch to a client with that same spark she'd had at 10. You sure you're ready to loosen the reins? Ellen asked one day, helping me sort fabric samples. Clara was across the room, laughing with a new designer she'd brought in. She's ready, I said, ignoring the twinge in my gut. She's my daughter. Ellen didn't say anything, but her look lingered. I brushed it off. Clara wasn't just my daughter, she was my partner, my heart. I trusted her with everything. That trust blinded me. By 27, Clara wasn't just involved, she was taking over. She hired her own team, young guys in sharp suits who called her visionary and me ma'am. They'd huddle in her office, doors closed, while I sat at my desk, signing checks for deals I hadn't approved. It's just a trial, Mama, she'd say when I asked about a new campaign. Ads with flashing lights, nothing like our style. Trust me. I do, I said. But my voice felt hollow. I'd catch her whispering with her team, their eyes flicking to me, then away. Meetings started happening without me. You don't need to stress, Mama, she'd say, patting my arm like I was fragile. I've got it handled. One night I stayed late, alone in the office. Her desk was a mess. Sketches, contracts, a sticky note with rebrand launch scrawled in her handwriting. I found a mock-up of our logo, the one I designed decades ago, slashed with red pen, replaced by something cold, angular. My stomach twisted. This wasn't growth. This was erasure. Clara, what's this? I asked the next morning, holding up the mock-up. We were in the break room, coffee machine humming. She barely looked up from her phone. Oh, that? Just an idea. We need to stay relevant. Relevant? I set the paper down, my voice tight. This is our brand, our story. She sighed, finally meeting my eyes. Mama, you're the past. We need to move with the times. I froze, her words slicing deep. The past? Clara, I built this. For us. She shrugged, like it was nothing. I'm building it now. You should rest. You've done enough. I stood there, coffee cooling in my hand, as she walked out, her heels clicking. I didn't realize love came with an expiration date, but Clara had just drawn the line. I went home that night, my house too quiet, the weight of her words sinking in. She wasn't just running the business. She was pushing me out, piece by piece. I'd taught her everything, how to negotiate, how to dream, how to fight. Now she was using it against me, rewriting our story like I was a footnote. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I pulled out my old sketchbook, the one I'd used in the garage days. My hands shook as I flipped through. Doodles of curtains, notes on clients, Clara's crayon scribbles in the margins. This was where it started. Not with her team, her rebrand, her ambition. With me. I closed the book, my jaw tight. She thought I was too old, too slow. She didn't know I was just getting started. Have you ever had someone you love betray you for success? Drop it in the comments. Your voice matters. Because Clara's betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the spark. Stick around, because I'm about to show her what this past can do. I closed my sketchbook. Clara's words, "You're the past," still burning in my chest like a coal that wouldn't cool. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I'd handed her the reins, thinking it was love, not leverage. Morgan & Company was my life's work, built from sweat and sacrifice, and she was carving me out like I was dead weight. I wasn't ready to quit, not by a long shot, but the fight ahead felt heavier than I'd expected. My daughter wasn't just pulling away. She was waging war, and I hadn't seen it coming. But as dawn crept through my curtains, I knew one thing. I'd built this empire once. I could build again. What I didn't know was how fast she'd moved to bury me first. The next morning, I drove to the office, my hands tight on the wheel. Clara's mock-up of the slashed logo haunted me, a sign of how far she'd drifted from our roots. I told myself I'd talk to her, lay it all bare, mother to daughter, not boss to employee. "We're family," I whispered, pulling into the lot. "We fixed this." But the office felt wrong the second I walked in. The receptionist, a new hire Clara had brought in, barely looked up. "Morning, Ms. Morgan," she mumbled, her eyes on her screen. I headed to my desk, ready to pull up our sales reports, see what Clara's trials were costing us. My login failed. I tried again, then a third time. Access denied. My pulse quickened. I called IT, keeping my voice calm. "Hey Mike, something's up with my account." Mike hesitated, his tone uneasy. Patricia, I got orders to lock you out." Clara said it's temporary, just a system update." "Temporary?" I gripped the phone. "Since when does the founder get locked out?" He didn't answer, just muttered something about checking with Clara. I hung up, my face hot. This wasn't an update. This was a move. I marched to Clara's office, but her door was shut, laughter spilling through. Her team, always her team. I knocked hard. She opened it, her smile tight. "Mama, what's wrong?" "Don't play innocent," I said, my voice low. "Why's my access cut?" She sighed, stepping into the hall, closing the door behind her. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It's a glitch. We're streamlining things." "Streamlining?" I stepped closer, searching her eyes for the girl I'd raised. "Clara, this is our company. You don't lock me out of my own system." Her jaw tightened, just a flicker, but I caught it. "It's not your company anymore," she said, her voice cool. "I'm CEO now. You stepped back, remember?" I froze, her words a slap. "Stepped back, not out. I built this, Clara. Every stitch, every deal." She crossed her arms. "And I'm saving it. You're stuck in the past, Mama. Let me do my job." I wanted to scream, to shake her until she remembered who we were. But her eyes were cold, like a stranger's, and I saw it then. She wasn't just pushing me away. She was erasing me. I turned, my hands shaking, and walked back to my desk. That's when I noticed my photos, my files, the mug Clara had painted at 8. Gone. My office was a shell, stripped bare. Clara! I called, storming back. She was already in a meeting, her team around a table, papers spread out. I pushed the door open, my voice sharp. What did you do to my office? She didn't flinch, just leaned back in her chair. We needed the space, Mama. You're barely here anymore. Her team stared, some smirking, others looking away. I felt the room shrink, their eyes like needles. Barely here? I said, my voice breaking. I gave you everything. This company, my trust. And you gut my office like I'm nothing? She stood, her tone clipped. You're making a scene. This is a board meeting. If you want to talk, schedule something. Schedule? I laughed, bitter. I'm your mother, not a client. Then act like it, she snapped. Stop embarrassing us both. The room went silent, her words hanging heavy. I looked at her, my Clara, my girl, and saw only ambition, sharp and unyielding. I walked out, their whispers trailing me, my chest tight. The board meeting wasn't just business, it was a stage. And she'd humiliated me on it, making sure everyone knew I was out. I drove home, my vision blurring, not from tears but from rage I didn't know how to hold. My house felt too big, too empty, the walls mocking me with photos of Clara. Her first bike, her graduation, her first day at Morgan & Company. I sank onto the couch, the weight of it all crashing down. She'd locked me out, stripped my office, turned our legacy into her throne. I'd built that company for us, for her, and now I was a stranger in it. The days blurred into weeks. I stopped going to the office. Why bother when my keycard didn't work? Ellen called, her voice soft. Patricia, you okay? Nobody's seen you. I'm fine, I lied, staring at the ceiling. Just taking a break. She paused. Clara's saying you retired. That true? Retired? The word burned. No, I said, my voice hard. She's pushing a story that's not mine. Ellen didn't push, but I heard the doubt in her silence. Friends started pulling away, some siding with Clara, others just avoiding the mess. She's young, ambitious, one said at a coffee shop meetup I forced myself to attend. Maybe it's time to let go. Let go? I set my cup down, my hand steady despite the ache. She didn't ask me to let go. She threw me out. They changed the subject, their smiles strained. I stopped going after that. Isolation crept in, heavy and quiet. I'd wake at 3 a.m., my mind replaying Clara's voice, "You're the past," until it felt true. Depression wasn't loud, it was a fog, dulling everything. I'd sit at my kitchen table, sketching designs I'd never sell, wondering if I'd lost more than the business. Had I lost her? I tried reaching out once, sent a text. Clara, can we talk? Just us. No reply. I called, left voicemails she never returned. I'm still your mother, I said to the silence, my voice cracking. That doesn't end. The world kept moving without me. I'd see Morgan & Company ads online, Clara's rebrand, all sharp edges and neon, nothing like the warmth we'd built. Customers loved it, or so the comments said. I couldn't look for long. It hurt too much, like watching someone wear your skin. Then, one night, my phone pinged. A message from an unknown number. Check your email. You need to know this. My heart raced as I opened my laptop, finding an anonymous tip in my inbox. Clara's. Meeting with overseas investors next month. She's planning to sell 60% of Morgan & Company to a conglomerate. Thought you deserved a heads up. I read it twice, my hands cold. Sell? She wasn't just running the business. She was dismantling it, trading our legacy for a payout. I sat back, the fog lifting just enough to let anger through. Clara thought she'd won, thought I was gone for good. But this tip, this crack in her plan, was my way back in. I stood, pacing my kitchen, the email still open. Clara had humiliated me, locked me out, left me to rot in my own doubt. But I wasn't done. That anonymous tip was a lifeline, a chance to fight. Not just for the business, but for myself. I grabbed my sketchbook, flipping to a blank page. Morgan and Company was mine first. And if Clara wanted to sell it, she'd have to face me. Not as her mother, but as her rival. What would you do if someone you loved tried to erase your life's work? Would you fade, or would you rise? Sharper than they ever expected. I'm choosing to rise. I stared at the anonymous email. The words Clara's, planning to sell 60% of Morgan and Company, glowing like a warning flare in the dark. My kitchen felt smaller, the walls pressing in as I gripped my sketchbook, its blank page daring me to act. Clara had locked me out, stripped my office, humiliated me in front of her board. And now she was poised to sell the heart of the business I'd built from nothing. The fog of depression still clung to me. But that tip sparked something. Anger? Yes, but also clarity. She thought I was finished. A relic she could bury. She didn't know I was already clawing my way back. I wasn't just her mother anymore. I was a woman with a fire she'd never extinguish. And the fight was about to get real. Sleep didn't come that night. I paced, the email replaying in my head. Selling to a conglomerate? That wasn't ambition. It was betrayal. Not just of me, but of everything Morgan and Company stood for. The warmth, the craftsmanship, the trust we'd earned. She was trading it for a quick buck. I wanted to call her, demand answers. But what good would that do? She'd stopped listening years ago. No, this wasn't about talking. This was about building something she couldn't ignore. Morning came, grey and heavy. I was rinsing my coffee mug when my phone rang. Ellen, checking in like she did every few weeks. "Patricia, you sound different," she said, her voice cautious. "What's going on?" I hesitated, the weight of Clara's plan too raw to share. "Just thinking," I said, "about what's next." "Next?" She laughed, soft but knowing. "You're not the type to sit still. You talked to Lewis yet?" Lewis. The name hit like a spark. Lewis Carter, my old friend, my co-founder in the early days of Morgan and Company. He'd been there in the garage, sketching designs beside me, cracking jokes while we packed orders. We'd parted ways amicably when Clara was a teen. He wanted to travel. I wanted to grow the business. But we'd stayed close, trading Christmas cards, the occasional call. He'd always said I was the soul of the company. Maybe he'd see what Clara was doing and feel the same burn I did. "Lewis," I said, leaning against the counter. "Not in years. Why?" "He's back in town," Ellen said. "Retired, sort of. Asked about you last week. Said he missed the old days." I thanked her, hung up and found his number in my contacts, my thumb hovering. What was I even asking for? Help? A sounding board? I didn't know. But I dialed anyway, my heart thudding. "Patricia Morgan," Lewis answered, his voice warm, like no time had passed. "Thought you forgot about me." "Hard to forget a man who spilled coffee on my first big order," I teased, surprising myself with a laugh. He chuckled. "Fair. What's up, Pat? You don't call for nostalgia." I took a breath, then let it spill. Clara's takeover, the lockout, the board meeting, the tip about the sale. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't hide the hurt. "She's selling what we built, Lewis. Not just my share. Our soul." He was quiet a moment. Then, "Damn, Pat, that's cold." Clara was always sharp, but this... She thinks it's hers to burn, I said, my voice tight. I can't let her. Then don't, he said. Simple as that. You're Patricia Morgan. You built an empire with nothing but grit and a sewing machine. You gonna let her write your ending? I gripped the phone, his words cutting through the fog. Number. But I don't know where to start. Start with me, he said. Lunch tomorrow. My place. We'll figure it out. Lewis's house was a cozy bungalow, all wood floors and mismatched furniture. The kind of place that felt lived in. He greeted me with a hug, his grey beard scratching my cheek. You look like hell, he said, grinning as he poured iced tea. Thanks, I said, sinking into a chair. Feel like it too. We talked for hours, the past and present tangling together. He'd followed Morgan and Company from afar, proud but not surprised when it grew. You had the vision, he said, slicing a lemon for our drinks. Clara's got flash, but you had hot. Had, I echoed, my voice flat. She's made sure everyone thinks I'm done. He leaned forward, eyes sharp. Then prove 'em wrong, not by fighting her in court. That's her game. Build something new, something better. I stared at him, the idea both thrilling and terrifying. A new company. Lewis, I'm 62. I don't have the cash, the energy. Bull, he cut in laughing. You've got more fight than most kids half your age. And you've got me. I raised a brow. You're retired. You said so yourself. Retired from boredom, he said, waving a hand. I've got savings, contacts, and a hell of a grudge against anyone who screws over my friend. Let's hit her where it hurts. Right in the market. My pulse quickened. A rival brand. Not just a comeback, but a challenge. One that honored the values Clara had tossed aside. Warmth, quality, trust. The things Morgan and Company used to mean. I leaned back, the fog lifting just a bit. What are we talking here? Linens again? Decor? All of it, he said, his grin wide. But smarter. Sustainable fabrics, local artisans, stories in every piece. Clara's chasing trends. We'll chase meaning. I nodded, ideas sparking. Designs I'd shelved, clients I'd known for decades, markets Clara ignored. She's got my customer base, I said, my voice steady. But not their loyalty. Exactly. He clinked his glass against mine. To new beginnings, Pat. And to making Clara sweat. The next week we got to work. Lewis's dining room became our war room, papers and fabric swatches everywhere. He called old suppliers, ones Clara had ditched for cheaper options, and I sketched. Pillows, throws, rugs, each one a nod to the garage days, but fresh, bold. We named it Hearth and Hand, a promise of home, of care. This is us, I said one night, holding up a woven blanket, its colors soft but strong. This is what she forgot. Lewis nodded, his eyes warm. It's what you never lost. I wasn't naive. Starting over at my age, with Clara's empire looming, was a gamble. We needed capital, a team, a launch that'd turn heads. Lewis had savings, but I'd sunk mine into Morgan and Company, trusting Clara to carry it forward. Now I had to hustle again, pitching to small investors, bartering with artisans, building from scraps. It was exhausting, but it woke me up. The depression that had clung to me eased, replaced by purpose. Think she knows you're planning something? Lewis asked one evening, as we sorted through logo drafts. Not yet, I said, my jaw tight. But she will. I kept that email close, the anonymous tip about her sale to investors. It was my edge, proof she was overreaching, risking the business for a payout. I didn't know who sent it. Maybe a disgruntled employee, maybe someone closer. But it didn't matter. It was my spark, and Hearth and Hand was my fire. Clara's ads kept popping up online, her rebrand louder, flashier. I'd see her face in magazines, all polished smiles talking about innovation. But I heard whispers. Clients unhappy with rushed orders, suppliers stiffed on payments. She was moving fast, too fast, and that sale loomed like a shadow. I didn't confront her, didn't call. I wanted her to feel secure, to think I was gone. The longer she underestimated me, the stronger I'd build. One night, I sat with Lewis. Our first samples spread across his table, a lamp, a curtain, a rug, each one carrying a story. "This could work," I said, my voice quiet but sure. "Really work. It will," he said, clapping my shoulder. "You're not just competing, Pat. You're reminding the world who you are." I nodded, the weight of his words settling. Clara had taken my business, my trust, my place. But she hadn't taken my fight. Hearth and Hand wasn't just a brand. It was me, reborn, and I was coming for her market, her pride, her crown. I sat at Lewis's dining table, surrounded by the first samples of Hearth and Hand, the woven blanket in my hand soft but sturdy, a symbol of the fight I was building. Clara's betrayal, locking me out, stripping my office, planning to sell Morgan and Company to overseas investors, had left me in ashes. But those ashes were fertile now. With Lewis by my side, we were crafting something new, something that honored the heart of what I'd started decades ago. Clara thought she'd erase me, that her flashy rebrand and sharp-suited team had buried the past. She didn't know I was rising, quiet but relentless. And the anonymous tip about her sale was my secret weapon, a crack in her armor I'd exploit when the time was right. For now I was building, and the world was about to notice. Lewis and I worked like we were kids again, fueled by coffee and defiance. Hearth and Hand wasn't just a brand, it was a promise, each piece carrying a story of craft, care, and comeback. We started small, leasing a corner of a local warehouse, just enough for a workbench and a few shelves. I'd sketch late into the night designs that blended the warmth of Morgan and Company's early days with a modern edge. Linen curtains with hand-stitched hems, ceramic lamps shaped by local artisans. Lewis handled suppliers, sweet-talking them with that old charm of his. "Patricia's back," he'd say, winking. "You in or you out?" Most were in. They remembered me, the woman who'd paid on time, who'd shared beers with them after long shipments. Clara had burned bridges, chasing cheaper deals abroad, and I was picking up the pieces. "She's all flash," one supplier, Maria, told me over the phone. "Her stuff's falling apart. Customers aren't happy." "Good," I said, my voice steady. "Let's give them something better." We called it Golden Era Essentials, a name that felt like a nod to my age, my experience, and the timeless quality we were chasing. Launching wasn't easy. My savings were gone, sunk into Morgan and Company, and Lewis's nest egg only went so far. We crowdfunded, pitched to small investors, old clients mostly, who'd trusted me for years. "You're the real deal, Patricia," one said, signing a check. "Clara's lost to that." I nodded, but inside, her name stung. Lost? No, she'd chosen to lose it, to lose me. Every late night, every call, every stitch was for her as much as it was for me. A reminder that I wasn't done, that the past could outshine her future. The launch was quiet, just a pop-up shop at a local market. Lewis manned the register while I talked to customers, telling them about the artisans, the sustainable fabrics. "This isn't just a throw," I said to a woman fingering a woven blanket. "It's a story, made by hands, not machines." She bought two, her smile warm. "You've got something special here." Word spread, slow but steady. We built a website, simple but clean, and I posted photos. Me at the workbench, Lewis unpacking crates, artisans shaping clay. Then came the video. Lewis's idea, not mine. "People need to see you, Pat," he said, setting up a camera in the warehouse. "Not the polished crap Clara's pushing. You." I was nervous, my hands sweaty as I sat on a stool, the camera blinking red. "Hi," I started, my voice shaky. "I'm Patricia Morgan. 30 years ago, I started a business in my garage, with my daughter by my side. It grew, but I lost it. Not to failure, to betrayal. This is Golden Era Essentials, my second chance. It's about heart, about home, about proving you're never too old to start again. I hope you'll join me." I stopped, my throat tight. Lewis grinned, shutting off the camera. "That's gold, Pat. Raw, real." He posted it online, and it spread. First dozens of views, then thousands. Comments poured in. "You're an inspiration. Screw the haters, keep going." My inbox filled with orders, messages from strangers who'd felt discarded too. "Your story's mine," one woman wrote. "Thank you for fighting." I read that one twice, tears pricking my eyes. "This is bigger than us," I told Lewis, showing him the screen. He nodded, his voice soft. "It's you, Pat. They're seeing you." Golden Era was growing, but it wasn't easy. Clara's shadow loomed, her ads everywhere, her rebrand screaming from billboards. I'd see her face, all gloss and confidence, and feel the ache of what we'd lost. But I didn't call her, didn't reach out. She'd made her choice, and I was making mine. Fall came, and with it, the seasonal market, a big one. The kind that set the tone for holiday sales. Claris Morgan and Company had dominated it for years, her booths packed with neon throws and trendy vases. This time, Golden Era was there too, our booth small but warm, draped in linens that glowed under string lights. I was nervous, my hands smoothing a tablecloth for the 10th time. "What if they don't come?" I asked Lewis, my voice low. "They'll come," he said, adjusting a lamp. "You're not selling products, you're selling truth." He was right. Customers trickled in, then flooded. They loved the story. Every piece came with a card, naming the artisan, the process. "This feels like home," one woman said, clutching a rug. "Not like the stuff at the other booth." She meant Clara's. I glanced across the market, where Morgan and Company's booth gleamed all chrome and flash. It was busy, but I saw it. Customers leaving empty-handed, muttering about quality. Our sales climbed, then soared. By the end of the weekend, we'd outsold Morgan and Company in total revenue, a first in their history. Lewis whooped, checking the numbers. "We did it, Pat, right out the gate." I smiled, but kept my eyes on the crowd. It's not enough. She'll call it a fluke. And she did. I saw it online, a post from Clara's account, sleek and dismissive. "Congrats to the little startups out there. Markets are cute, but we're playing the long game." No mention of me, but the jab was clear. I saved the post, added it to my notebook, the one I'd started after her betrayal. Every slight, every move, she was building my case, even if she didn't know it. "She's rattled," Lewis said, reading the post over my shoulder. "Good. Let her underestimate us." I nodded, my jaw tight. Clara thought this was a one-off, a lucky break for her past. She didn't see the orders stacking up, the artisans we'd hired, the investors circling. I stayed quiet, focused, sketching new designs, planning our next move. The anonymous tip about her investor sale sat in my inbox, a ticking clock. She was planning to gut Morgan and Company, and I'd be ready when she did. That night, I sat alone, the warehouse dark except for my desk lamp. The video comments still came, hundreds now, stories of second chances, of fighting back. I read one from a woman my age. "You made me believe I can start again. Thank you, Patricia. I closed my laptop, my chest tight. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. It was about every woman who'd been pushed aside, every dream someone tried to crush. Do you believe second chances can lead to better beginnings? Tell me what you think in the comments. Because Golden Era wasn't just my comeback, it was proof that heartbeats flash, that truth outlasts lies. Clara's sale was coming, and with it, my chance to strike harder. Stick around, because I'm not just competing. I'm building a legacy she can't touch, and the fire's only growing. I closed my laptop, the glow of Golden Era Essentials' viral video comments still warming me, each one a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. Clara's dismissive post, calling my market win a cute fluke, sat in my notebook, another jab in her growing list of mistakes. She thought she could brush me off, that Morgan & Company's shadow would swallow my light. But outselling her at the seasonal market wasn't luck. It was proof that heart could outshine flash, and I was just getting started. That anonymous tip about her plan to sell 60% of the business to overseas investors burned in my mind. A ticking bomb I'd use when the moment was right. For now, I kept building, kept growing, knowing Clara wouldn't stay quiet forever. And when she struck, I'd be ready. Not just to defend, but to hit back harder. Golden Era was picking up steam, orders flooding in faster than Lewis and I could handle. We moved from the warehouse corner to a proper studio, a loft with skylights that made our fabrics glow. Artisans worked alongside us, Maria weaving rugs, a potter named Javier shaping vases, each one a friend, not just a hire. "This feels like family," Javier said one day, dusting clay from his hands. "Not like the grind at Morgan & Company." I smiled, but my guard stayed up. Clara's silence after the market felt too calm, like the hush before a storm. I'd check her social media, see her posing with new products, her captions all confidence. Leading the way, as always. No mention of the complaints I'd heard, shoddy stitching, late deliveries. She was holding her ground, but cracks were showing and I was watching. Then it hit. Maria called me one morning, her voice tight. "Patricia, I got an offer from Morgan & Company yesterday. Triple my rate to jump ship." I froze, my coffee mug halfway to my lips. "Triple? What did you say?" "Told him no," she said, firm. "But they pushed hard. Said Golden Era's a fad, that you're unreliable." "Unreliable?" I set the mug down, my pulse quickening. "That's rich, coming from her." Maria laughed, but it was tense. They called Javier too, and our cotton supplier. Clara's name was all over it. I thanked her, hung up, and called Lewis. "She's poaching," I said, pacing the studio. "Suppliers, artisans, anyone we work with." He whistled, low. "She's scared, Pat." That market loss hit her ego. "Scared or not, she's playing dirty," I said, my voice hard. "This isn't just business, it's personal." Lewis leaned back in his chair, eyes sharp. "Then let's get personal back. What's our move?" I didn't answer right away. Clara's move was bold, but sloppy, reaching out to Maria and Javier directly, leaving her fingerprints. She wasn't just trying to weaken us. She was spreading lies, banking on her clout to scare my team away. I thought of that tip, her investor sale looming. She was desperate to look strong, to prove Morgan & Company was untouchable before cashing out. That was her weakness, and I'd use it. "Let's check the others," I said. "See how far she's gone." We spent the day calling. Every artisan, every supplier. 3 more had gotten offers. All from Clara's team, all with the same pitch. Golden Era's a flash in the pan, Patricia's washed up. My blood boiled, but I kept my voice calm, thanking them for their loyalty. Most stayed. Maria's refusal had set the tone, but the cotton supplier wavered. "It's a good deal," he admitted, sheepish. "I don't want to leave, But stay with us, I said, my tone steady but warm. We're not just a deal. We're a future. He agreed barely, but it was a wake-up call. Clara wasn't stopping at poaching. I started hearing whispers, rumors at trade shows, online comments from fake accounts, Golden Era's cutting corners. Patricia's too old to compete. One blog post, clearly planted, called me a has-been riding nostalgia. I saved it all in my notebook, each lie fuel for what came next. She's trying to choke us out, I told Lewis, showing him the blog post. We were in the studio, surrounded by half-packed orders. If she scares off our suppliers, we can't deliver. Then we don't just deliver, he said, grinning. We steal her spotlight. I raised a brow. How? He leaned forward, eyes glinting. That influencer she's been chasing, Lila Voss. Word is Clara's desperate to sign her. What if we get there first? Lila Voss was a rising star, a home decor blogger with 1 million followers who loved her cozy, authentic vibe. Exactly what Golden Era stood for. I'd seen Clara's team cozying up to her online, liking her posts, dropping hints about collabs. Lila's out of our league, I said, hesitant. We're barely covering rent. We don't need money, Lewis said. We've got you. She'll want your story, Pat. Not Clara's flash. I didn't believe him, not fully, but I nodded. Set it up. Let's try. Lewis worked his magic, pulling string through an old PR friend. 2 days later, I was on a video call with Lila, her face bright on my laptop. Patricia, I saw your launch video, she said, leaning forward. It hit me hard. My mum started over at 50 after a divorce. I get it. I swallowed, surprised by her warmth. Thank you. That video, it was just me, trying to make sense of things. That's why it worked, she said, smiling. It's real. Clara's team reached out, all polished pictures, big numbers, but it felt hollow. I want to work with you. My heart raced. You sure? We're small, Lila. No fancy budgets. I don't need fancy, she said. I need hot. Let's do a collab. Exclusive line, my followers, your designs. Deal? Deal, I said, barely believing it. Lewis, watching from the couch, gave a silent thumbs up. We moved fast. Lila flew in, spent a day in the studio, laughing with Maria, sketching with me. We designed a capsule collection. Throws, pillows, a lamp, all cozy, all us. She filmed it. Her energy, infectious. This is Golden Era Essentials, she told her camera, holding up a woven cushion. It's not just decor. It's a woman who fought back, who built something true. Support this. The video dropped a week later, timed perfectly, right before Clara's big spring campaign. Lila's followers went wild, orders crashing our site. We sold out the collab in hours, restocked, sold out again. Blogs picked it up, not the shady ones Clara planted, but real ones. Golden Era steals the show with Voss collab. Clara's campaign launched the same week, glossy, expensive, loud. It flopped. Customers called it soulless, flocking to us instead. I saw her response online, a clipped statement. Markets fluctuate. Morgan & Company remains the leader. But I knew better. Her suppliers were slipping. Her clients were grumbling. And now I'd taken Lila, the prize she'd chased. She'd tried to sabotage me, poach my team, spread lies. I didn't shout back, didn't call her out. I answered with action, with a win she couldn't ignore. That night I sat in the studio, Lila's video playing on my phone, the comments still pouring in. Patricia's a legend. This is what real looks like. Lewis brought takeout, and we ate among the fabric rolls, laughing like we were back in the garage days. She didn't see this coming, he said, raising a soda can. To you, Pat. To us, I corrected, clinking my can against his. But my eyes drifted to my notebook, to that anonymous tip. Clara's investor sale was still out there, her biggest move yet. She'd struck at me, and I'd struck back. But the real fight was coming. I was ready, not just to compete, but to win. What would you do if someone tried to bury your dream with lies? Would you fight with truth, with work, with heart? I did. Share your story in the comments. Have you ever turned a loss into a win? Stick around, because Clara's not done. But neither am I. And this battle's about to get fierce. I leaned back in the studio chair, Lila Voss's collab video still looping on my phone, the rush of Golden Era Essentials' latest win humming through me. Clara's sabotage, poaching my suppliers, spreading lies, had backfired. Her spring campaign crumbling while our sales soared. Her clip dismissal online, calling our success a fluke, only fueled me more. She thought she could bury me with rumors and greed. But I'd answered with truth, with work, stealing the spotlight she craved. That anonymous tip about her plan to sell 60% of Morgan & Company to overseas investors sat heavy in my notebook, a storm I knew was coming. I hadn't played that card yet, but Clara's desperation was showing, and I was ready for whatever she threw next. What I didn't expect was how fast her house of cards would start to fall. The studio was alive now, a far cry from the warehouse corner we'd started in. Artisans hummed at their stations, Maria weaving, Javier glazing a vase, while Louis sorted orders. His grin permanent since Lila's collab broke records. "We're outpacing Morgan & Company online," he said one morning, showing me a sales graph. "Clara's got to be sweating." "Let her," I said, sketching a new curtain design. "She's not my focus." But she was, in the quiet moments. I'd check her social media, see her polished posts. Morgan & Company innovates, always. But the comments told another story. "Where's the quality?" "Miss the old designs." I saved them, adding to my notebook. Next to that tip about her investor deal, she was slipping, and I wasn't the only one noticing. Then came the article. I was grabbing coffee with Louis at a diner when my phone buzzed. An email from Ellen, a link to a local news site. Morgan & Company under fire, unethical partnerships exposed. My heart skipped as I clicked. A journalist, Sarah Tate, had dug into Clara's supply chain, uncovering deals with overseas factories known for cutting corners, low wages, unsafe conditions, shoddy materials. The piece quoted disgruntled clients, suppliers who'd been stiffed, even a former employee who called Clara ruthless. Photos showed Morgan & Co.'s latest line, frayed seams, chipped ceramics, next to glowing reviews of Golden Era's heartfelt craft. "Holy hell," Louis said, reading over my shoulder. "This is big, Pat." I nodded, my mouth dry. Big didn't cover it. This was a gut punch to Clara's brand, proof her innovation was a facade. I felt a flicker of guilt. She was still my daughter, but it faded fast. She'd chosen this, not me. I forwarded the article to my notebook, another piece of her unraveling. By noon, the story was everywhere. Blogs, social media, even a rival boutique's snarky post. Guess Flash doesn't last. I braced for Clara's response, knowing it'd come. It did that evening, in a call I didn't expect. My phone lit up, her name glaring. I stared, tempted to let it ring, but I answered, my voice calm. "What do you want, Clara?" "You planted this," she snapped, her voice sharp but shaky. "This article, it's your doing, isn't it?" I laughed, low and bitter, setting my sketchbook down. "You did this all by yourself. I just refused to clean up after you this time." She went quiet. Then, "You're ruining me, Mama. Everything I've built." "Built?" I cut in, my voice steel. You tore down what I built. You locked me out, lied about me, tried to sabotage my suppliers. This article? That's your choices catching up. You're jealous, she said, desperate now. You can't stand that I'm better at this. I gripped the phone, her words slicing old wounds. Better? You sold our soul for cheap deals and headlines. I'm not jealous, Clara. I'm done letting you rewrite me. She hung up, the silence loud. I sat there, my hands trembling, not with anger, but with clarity. She'd blame me, like always. But the truth was out, and it wasn't my pen that wrote it. Sarah Tate had done her homework, and Clara's empire was cracking. The fallout was swift. Morgan and Company's stock, public since Clara's aggressive expansion, dipped, investors grumbling online. Customers flooded Golden Era's site, some citing the article, others just drawn to our story. You're what Morgan used to be, one email read, and I saved it, my chest tight. Lewis was gleeful, tracking numbers like a kid with a new toy. We're up 20% since yesterday, he said, slapping the desk. Clara's bleeding, Pat. I nodded, but my eyes were on my notebook. That tip, her investor sale, was still there, unplayed. The article had weakened her, but a sale could still save her, let her cash out before the crash. I wasn't ready to tip my hand, not yet. I needed more, proof, timing, a way to make sure she felt the weight of her choices. Think she'll call again? Lewis asked, tossing me a soda. Doubt it, I said, catching it. She's too proud, but she's not done fighting. He raised a brow. Neither are we. What's next? I didn't answer right away. Clara's accusation, you planted this, echoed. Not because it was true, but because it showed her fear. She was cornered, lashing out, and that made her dangerous. But it also made her sloppy. I thought of Sarah Tate, the journalist. She'd reached out that morning, wanting a quote for a follow-up. No comment, I'd said. But now I wondered, could she dig deeper? Find that investor deal? Let's keep pushing, I told Lewis, my voice steady. More collabs? More artisans? Let Clara's mess speak for itself. He grinned. Quiet war, huh? Quiet wins, I said, smiling back. But my mind was racing. Clara's blame was a sign. She knew I was a threat. Even if she wouldn't admit it. The article wasn't my doing, but it was my opening, and I'd walk through it, notebook in hand, ready for the next blow. That night, I sat alone, the studio dark except for my lamp. I opened my laptop, rereading Sarah's article, then Clara's latest post, a weak defense, claiming misunderstandings with suppliers. The comments were brutal. Lost my trust. Bring back Patricia. I saved it, my jaw tight. She'd tried to pin her fall on me, but the world was seeing her for what she was. My phone buzzed. A text from Ellen. Saw the news. You okay? I typed back. Better than okay. I'm still here. And I was. Golden Era wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, each sale a brick in the legacy Clara thought she'd stolen. But that tip, her investor sale, loomed larger now. If she sold, she'd escape the mess she'd made, walk away rich while Morgan and Company became a corporate shell. I couldn't let that happen. Not for revenge, but for the artisans, the customers, the heart I'd poured into it. I picked up my sketchbook, started a new design, a rug, bold but warm, like the one Clara used to nap on in the garage. This wasn't over. She'd blame me, but I'd let her mistakes do the talking, let the truth spill wider. And when it did, I'd be ready. Not just to compete, but to reclaim what was mine. What would you do if someone tried to pin their failures on you? Would you fight back with silence, letting their lies collapse? I'm choosing silence for now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been blamed for someone else's mess? I set my sketchbook down. The new rug design? A bold weave of warmth and memory, still fresh in my mind. A quiet defiance against Clara's accusation. Her voice, sharp and desperate, "You planted this," rang in my ears, but the truth was louder. Sarah Tate's article had cracked Morgan and Company's facade, exposing Clara's unethical deals to the world, and I hadn't lifted a finger to make it happen. She'd built her own trap, and I'd watched it spring. My notebook growing thicker with every misstep she made. Golden era. Essentials was soaring, each sale a testament to the heart she'd abandoned, but that anonymous tip about her investor sale still burned in my inbox. A move she hadn't played yet, a shadow I couldn't ignore. Clara was cornered, blaming me for her fall. But I knew the real storm was coming, and I was ready to stand tall when it hit. The studio buzzed with life, artisans weaving, orders stacking up faster than we could ship. Golden Era wasn't just a brand anymore. It was a movement, fueled by customers who'd turned their backs on Clara's flash. "You're killing it, Pat," Lewis said one morning, tossing me a printout of our latest numbers. "We're up 30% since that article dropped." I glanced at the figures, my chest tight with pride but wary. "It's not enough," I said, pinning a new sketch to the wall. "She's still got moves." Lewis raised a brow, leaning against a workbench. "You think she'll sell? That investor deal?" I nodded, my voice low. "She's desperate. She'll try to cash out before it all collapses." He didn't push, just clapped my shoulder. "Let her try. We've got you." I smiled, but my eyes drifted to my notebook, tucked in my bag. That tip, Clara's meeting with overseas investors, was my ace, a secret I'd hold until the moment was right. For now, I focused on Golden Era, on the artisans who trusted me, the customers who believed in us. But Clara's shadow lingered, and I felt it growing. The next blow came fast. I was sipping tea at home when Ellen texted, "Check the news, Morgan and Company's imploding." I opened my laptop, heart racing, and saw the headline, "Morgan and Company. Board, shakeup. 3 members resign amid scandal." Sarah Tate again, her pen relentless. The article detailed board members jumping ship, citing ethical concerns, after her exposé on Clara's shady partnerships. Quotes from insiders painted a grim picture. Meetings where Clara dismissed complaints, pushed for cheaper suppliers, ignored warnings about quality. One resigning member, a man I'd hired decades ago, said, "This isn't the Morgan and Company." I joined. Patricia's vision is gone. I sat back, my tea cooling. Gone? No, my vision was alive, thriving in Golden Era. But Clara's empire was cracking, and the world was watching. By evening, another story broke. Major clients, boutiques, chains were pulling contracts, citing trust issues. Social media lit up, hashtags trending, number sign, Morgan Co mess, number sign, bring back Patricia. I saved it all, my notebook a vault of her downfall. Clara stayed silent for 2 days, her accounts dark. I braced for her counterattack, expecting another jab, another lie. Instead, I got a notification, a live video from Morgan and Company's page. I clicked, my stomach knotting as Clara's face appeared, polished but strained, her eyes shadowed. She stood in her office, the one that used to be mine, and started speaking. "I want to address recent concerns," she said, her voice steady but forced. "Morgan and Company has always strived for excellence, but we've made mistakes. I take full responsibility for partnerships that didn't meet our standards. To our clients, our team, our community, I'm sorry. We're committed to rebuilding trust, starting now." She paused, her jaw tight, then looked straight at the camera. To those who've tried to tear us down, I say this. We're stronger than your rumors. Morgan and Company will rise again. The video ended, comments exploding, some supportive, most brutal. Too late. Where's Patricia? I leaned back, her words sinking in. Those who've tried to tear us down. Me. She still saw me as the villain, even now apologizing to save face, but pointing a finger in the dark. I didn't laugh, didn't rage. I felt steady. She'd shown her hand, and it was weak. Lewis called, his voice bright. An apology? She's done, Pat. Board's gone, clients are out. She's got nothing. Not nothing, I said, my eyes on my notebook. She's got that sale. Investors don't care about apologies. They care about profit. He went quiet, then, you're gonna use it, aren't you? That tip. When it's time, I said, my voice calm. Let her think she's got room to breathe. The fallout kept coming. More clients bailed, their statements polite but cutting. We're aligning with brands that share our values. Golden Era's inbox overflowed. Orders, collabs, even a call from a major retailer wanting a meeting. You're the talk of the industry, the buyer said, her voice warm. People want what you're building. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the studio, artisans working under the skylights. This was what I'd fought for. Not just a win, but a legacy that meant something. Clara's apology hadn't mentioned me. Not directly. But I felt her jab, her refusal to admit I'd built the empire she'd squandered. It stung, but it also sharpened me. She was scrambling, and I was rising. I met Sarah Tate for coffee the next day. Her request, not mine. She was sharp, mid-30s, with eyes that missed nothing. I'm working on a follow-up, she said, stirring her latte. The resignations, the client exodus, people want to know what's next for Morgan and Company. And you. Me. I raised a brow, sipping my tea. I'm just running my business. She smiled, sly. You're more than that. Everyone's talking about Golden Era, how it's filling the gap Morgan left. Any comment on Clara's apology? I hesitated. Clara's voice, you planted this, echoing. She said what she had to, I said careful. Truce out now. That's what matters. Sarah nodded, jotting something down. Off the record, there's talk of a sale. Morgan and Company to a conglomerate. Know anything? My pulse spiked, that tip flashing in my mind. She was fishing, but I wasn't ready to bite. Talk's just talk, I said, smiling. I'm focused on my work. She didn't push, but her look said she'd keep digging. I left, my hands steady but my mind racing. The sale was real, and if Sarah was sniffing around, others would too. Clara's apology was a bandage on a sinking ship, and I held the map to its wreck. Back at the studio, I showed Lewis the latest numbers. Golden Era was now neck and neck with Morgan & Co.'s projected quarterly sales, a feat no one saw coming. She's losing ground, he said, grinning. Apology didn't help. It wasn't meant to, I said, pinning a new sketch up. It was meant to buy time. He tilted his head. For what? I didn't answer, just tapped my notebook. Clara's board was crumbling, her clients gone, her brand tarnished. She'd apologized to stall, to keep her investors calm until she could sell. But I was watching, waiting. My own empire growing stronger every day. She'd tried to blame me, to sabotage me, to erase me. Now the world saw her truth, and I was ready for the final move. I closed my notebook, the weight of Clara's public apology still lingering, her veiled jab, those who've tried to tear us down, stinging less than it should have. Morgan & Company was crumbling, board members gone, clients fleeing, her empire exposed as a hollow shell by Sarah Tate's relentless reporting. Golden Era Essentials was rising in its place, our sales neck and neck with hers, proof that heart could outlast greed. But that anonymous tip about her plan to sell 60% of the business to overseas investors sat like a loaded gun in my inbox, a move I knew she'd make soon to escape her mess. Clara's apology hadn't saved her. It had only bought her time, and I was counting the seconds until her next mistake. What I didn't see coming was how she'd try to drag me down with her. Live for the world to see. The studio was my sanctuary now. Sunlight streaming through skylights, artisans weaving stories into every piece. Orders poured in, each one a vote for Golden Era's truth over Clara's flash. Lewis was in high spirits, humming as he packed crates. "We're not just winning, Pat," he said, taping a box shut. "We're rewriting the game." I nodded. Pinning a new lamp sketch to the wall. "Long as Clara's still playing, we don't relax." He glanced at me, his grin fading. "You think she's got another move?" "Always," I said, my voice steady. That tip, her investor sale, felt closer now, like a storm gathering strength. Sarah Tate's coffee meeting had rattled me. Her questions about a sale meant the truth was sniffing around Clara's edges. I wasn't ready to tip my hand, not yet, but I kept my notebook close, every page a map of her missteps. Then my phone buzzed, a text from Ellen. "You see this? Clara's going live tonight. Some podcast called The Grind, talking about you." My stomach knotted as I opened the link. The Grind was a business show, raw and unfiltered, with a host, Mia Chen, known for sparking fights that went viral. Clara's post announced it. Clearing the air, setting the record straight. "Join me live at 8. No mention of me, but I knew better. This wasn't about her apology. It was about me. "Lewis," I called, showing him the post. "She's coming for me." He read it, his jaw tight. "Publicly? That's bold, even for her." "Desperate," I said, pacing. "She's losing ground. This is her swinging." He leaned against the workbench, eyes sharp. "You gonna watch?" "Watch?" I stopped, a spark catching. "I'm not just watching. If she wants a fight, I'll give her one." I called Mia Chen's producer, a long shot, but Lewis had a contact who owed him a favor. "Patricia Morgan," I said when she picked up. "I hear Clara's on tonight. If she's talking about me, I want in." The producer hesitated. "It's live, Mrs. Morgan. No script, no prep. You sure?" "Sure as I've ever been," I said. My voice calm but iron. "Let me know." An hour later, she texted, "You're on. Zoom link at 7:45. Good luck," I told Lewis, who whooped, clapping my back. "You're gonna bury her, Pat." "Not bury," I said, grabbing my blazer. "Expose." At 8 p.m., I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, the Zoom window glowing. Mia's voice came through smooth and sharp. "Tonight we've got Clara Morgan, CEO of Morgan & Company, here to talk leadership, legacy, and the drama shaking her brand. Clara, welcome." Clara's face filled the screen, polished as ever, red lipstick, sleek bun. But her eyes were tired, her smile tight. "Thanks, Mia," she said. "I'm here to set things straight." I waited, my hands steady, as Mia leaned in. "Straight about what? Your board's resigning, clients are jumping ship, and that exposé, ouch. People say it's personal. Your mom, Patricia, she's out there killing it with Golden Era. What's the real story?" Clara's laugh was brittle. "The real story? My mother's been spreading lies, painting me as the villain to prop up her little startup. She's bitter, Mia. She couldn't keep up, so she stepped back. Now she's trying to tear me down." My pulse spiked, but I stayed silent, the producer's chat blinking. "You're up in two." Clara kept going, her voice rising. "I built Morgan & Company into what it is, modern, global. She's stuck in the past, riding my coattails with her sob story. Mia raised a brow. That's a big claim. Let's bring in another voice. Patricia Morgan, you there? I clicked unmute, my face joining the screen. Clara's eyes widened just a flicker, but I caught it. I'm here, I said, my voice calm, eyes locked on hers. And I'm not riding anything, Clara. You locked me out of my own company. You spread lies, not me. The chat exploded. Emojis, gasps, oh snap. Clara recovered fast, her smile cold. Mama, don't do this. You retired. I respected that. Retired? I leaned forward, my voice cutting through. You changed my passwords, emptied my office, humiliated me in front of your board. That's not respect. That's betrayal. Mia's eyes gleamed, sensing blood. Whoa, hold up. Clara, is that true? Clara's jaw tightened. She's exaggerating. She was slowing us down, Mia. I had to make hard calls for the business. Hard calls? I said, holding up my notebook, pages fanning. Like poaching my suppliers? Spreading rumors I'm unreliable? Or those unethical factories you partnered with, the ones Sarah Tate exposed? Clara's face paled, her voice sharp. You're behind that article. Don't pretend. You've been plotting this whole time, sabotaging me. I laughed, low and steady. Sabotaging. Clara, you built this mess. I just refused to stay quiet while you sold our legacy for scraps. The chat went wild. Patricia's a queen. Clara's done. Mia jumped in, her voice sharp. Clara, you're saying Patricia's orchestrating this. What's your proof? Clara stammered, her polish cracking. It's obvious. She's jealous. Always has been. I shook my head, my heart heavy but firm. Jealous? I raised you, taught you, gave you everything. You took it and called me the past. I'm not here to tear you down, Clara. I'm here to build something better. Mia tilted her head. Patricia, you're killing it with Golden Era. What's driving you now? I took a breath, the moment feeling bigger than the fight. I'm driven by every woman who's been pushed aside, told she's too old, too slow. Golden Era's my answer. And tonight, I'm announcing something new. 40% of our profits are going to female entrepreneurs over 50 to help them start over just like I did. The chat erupted. Hearts, cheers, legend. Clara's face froze, her eyes narrowing. That's a stunt, she snapped. You're just playing the hero. No, I said, my voice quiet but fierce. I'm living it. You could have been part of this, Clara. You chose a different path. Mia cut in, her tone final. We're out of time, but wow, this is raw. Clara, Patricia, thank you both. The feed ended, Clara's face vanishing, my screen dark. I sat back, my hands trembling, but my heart steady. Lewis called, his voice booming. Pat, you own that. She's toast. Maybe? I said, closing my laptop. But she's not out. Clara's live meltdown spread fast. Clips trending, blogs dissecting her stumbles. Golden Era's site crashed again. Orders flooding in, many citing my announcement. You're giving us hope, one customer wrote. And I saved it, my notebook now as much a record of my rise as her fall. But that tip, the investor sale, still loomed. Clara had lost the public, but she could still slip away with a payout, leaving Morgan and company a husk. I walked to the studio the next morning, artisans greeting me with hugs. That was brave, Maria said, her eyes warm. You didn't just fight, you inspired. I nodded, but my mind was on Clara. She'd come for me, live, thinking she'd win. Instead, she'd shown her cracks, anger, blame, no remorse. I'd shown mine too, hurt, but also strength. That 40% pledge wasn't planned, but it felt right, a way to turn pain into purpose. Would you forgive a child who betrayed you? Why or why not? I really want to hear your thoughts. Because I'm still wrestling with it, still loving Clara even as I fight her. I shut my laptop, the echo of Clara's live meltdown on the grind still ringing, her accusations crumbling under the weight of her own anger. My announcement of Golden Era Essentials donating 40% of profits to women over 50, stealing the spotlight she'd craved. The world had seen her truth, and mine, in that raw, unfiltered clash. My notebook, thick with her missteps, held that anonymous tip about her investor sale like a coiled spring, ready to release when the moment struck. Clara had lost the public, her board, her clients, but she wasn't done. She never was. I'd shown I could fight, but the ache of her betrayal, her refusal to see me as anything but a rival, lingered like a bruise. What I didn't expect was how soon she'd face me, not in public, but where it hurt most. Home. The studio hummed the next day, artisans weaving under skylights, orders piling up as Golden Era's name spread. Lewis was all grins, reading comments from the podcast clip. Patricia's a warrior. Clara's lost it. You shook her, Pat, he said, tossing me a fabric swatch. She's got nowhere to run. I caught the swatch, my smile tight. She'll run to that sale, I said, thinking of the tip. Investors don't care about her drama if the price is right. He nodded, but his eyes softened. You okay? After last night? I didn't answer, just pinned a new sketch to the wall. Last night wasn't just a win. It was a mirror, showing Clara's rage, my resolve, and the gap between us that felt wider than ever. I'd fought for Golden Era, for the women it would lift. But Clara's voice, "You're jealous," cut deeper than I'd let on. I loved her still, and that was the hardest part. That evening, I drove to my farmhouse, a quiet place outside town where I'd raised Clara, its porch creaking with memories. I was sipping tea in the kitchen, my notebook open, when headlights swept the drive. A car door slammed, and I knew before I looked. It was her. Clara stood at my door, no polish now, just jeans and a sweater, her face pale under the porch light. I opened it, my heart thudding. Clara? I said, my voice steady. What do you want? She didn't smile, didn't charm. Can I come in? I stepped aside, letting her into the kitchen where she'd once drawn on my sketchbooks. She sat, hands clasped, eyes on the table. I saw the podcast, she said, voice low. Everyone did. I stayed standing, arms crossed. You wanted a stage. You got one. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't snap back. I was scared, Mama, she said, barely audible. You never looked tired, never made mistakes. I thought I had to erase you to succeed. The words hit like a wave, her vulnerability cracking something in me. I sat across from her, my hands still. You could have stood beside me, I said, my voice soft but firm. I built this for us, Clara, not to compete with you. She looked up, eyes wet but guarded. I didn't know how, she said. You were everything. I needed to be something too. I swallowed, the ache of her words mingling with years of hurt. You were always something. My daughter, my partner. You didn't need to take it all. She didn't answer, just stared at the table. The silence heavy with what we couldn't fix. I saw her then. Not the CEO, not the rival, but the girl who'd promised to run it all with me. That girl was gone, buried under choices I couldn't undo. Why now? I asked, leaning forward. Why come here? She met my eyes, her voice steady now. Because I'm losing. And I needed to see you, not the story everyone's telling. I nodded, my throat tight. You're not losing me, Clara. But you're losing what you built. That's on you. She stood, her hands shaking. I know, she said, and walked out, the door clicking shut behind her. I sat there, tea cold, her words echoing. I thought I had to erase you. Clara had bared her fear, her truth. But it didn't heal us. It just showed the gap we'd both widened. Golden era was my answer now, not to her, but to myself, to every woman starting over. My notebook still held that tip. Her investor sale, her last escape. She'd come to me, raw and broken, but I wasn't her savior. I was her rival, and I'd fight until the end. I watched Clara's taillights fade down the driveway. Her confession, I thought I had to erase you, still heavy in the farmhouse kitchen. The silence she left behind wasn't empty. It was crowded with years of love, betrayal, and the raw truth we'd finally faced. My notebook lay open, that anonymous tip about her investor sale, a quiet threat, a move I knew she hadn't played yet. Golden era. Essentials was thriving, outshining Morgan & Coble's crumbling empire. But Clara's visit wasn't closure. It was a door cracked open, one I wasn't sure I'd walk through. She'd shown her fear, her regret. But trust was a long road, and I was still guarding mine. What I didn't expect was where that road would lead us next. The next morning, I drove to the studio, the air crisp, my mind replaying Clara's words. I didn't know how to stand beside you. Part of me wanted to call her, bridge the gap, but the other part, the one that had been locked out, humiliated, lied about, held firm. Golden era was my focus now, its skylights glowing as I walked in, artisans already at work. Maria waved, her loom humming, while Louis sorted orders, his grin wide. Numbers are up again, he said, tossing me a tablet. We're officially bigger than Morgan & Company online. I scanned the data, pride mixing with caution. Good, I said, setting it down. But don't get cozy, she's not done. Louis raised a brow, catching my tone. You mean that sale? Or last night? I'd told him about Clara's visit, her raw admission, though I'd kept the ache private. Both, I said, pinning a new sketch up. A throw, soft but bold. She's cornered, Louis. Cornered animals fight dirty. He nodded, but his eyes softened. You okay, Pat? That couldn't have been easy. I didn't answer, just grabbed a coffee and got to work. Easy? Number necessary? Maybe. Clara's confession had stirred something. Hope. Maybe. Or just the ghost of who we'd been. But I wasn't naive. Her sale loomed, and Morgan & Company, though battered, wasn't dead. I kept my notebook close, that tipped my leverage, waiting for the right moment. Days passed, the studio a whirlwind. Golden era's growth was relentless. New artisans, bigger orders, a second Lila Voss collab in the works. Sarah Tate's articles kept the pressure on Clara, her latest hinting at ongoing talks with investors, no names but enough to make me tense. She's close, I told Louis, showing him the piece. If she sells, she walks away clean. Not clean, he said, tapping the article. Not after this. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Clara's visit hadn't just left questions, it had left a choice. Could I keep fighting her, knowing she was scared, not just ruthless? Or was there another way, one that didn't mean surrender? The answer came unexpectedly. A week later, I was at the farmhouse, sketching by lamplight, when my phone buzzed, a text from Clara. Can we talk? Not a fight. Just talk. My thumb hovered, instinct screaming caution. But I typed back, tomorrow, studio, noon. She arrived on time, no makeup, her hair loose, looking more like the girl who'd coloured my designs than the CEO who'd locked me out. I met her outside, the autumn air sharp between us. What's this about? I asked, my voice even. She shifted, hands in her pockets. I've been thinking about what I said, about everything. I waited, arms crossed, letting her fill the silence. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said, eyes on the ground. I don't deserve it, but I want to learn, Mama. From you, from this. She gestured to the studio, its windows warm with light. I messed up. I know that. Her words hit hard, not because they were new, but because they were honest. I studied her, searching for a trap, but saw only weariness, a shadow of the ambition that had burned us both. Learn? I said, raising a brow. You ran Morgan and Company. What's left to learn? How to build something real, she said, meeting my eyes. Not flash. Not deals. Or what you're doing here. I didn't answer right away, my mind racing. This wasn't the Clara who'd blamed me on that podcast, who'd spread lies about my work. This was closer to my daughter, but trust was a bridge we'd both torched. Still, something in her voice, a crack, a plea, made me pause. Come inside, I said finally, leading her to the studio. Lewis was there, sorting fabric, his eyes widening when he saw her. I gave him a nod, it's okay, and sat Clara at a workbench away from the bustle. Here's the deal, I said, my voice firm but not cold. Golden Era's mine. My rules, my vision. If you want to learn, you start at the bottom. An internship under Lewis, not me. You earn your place, no shortcuts. Her eyes flicked to Lewis, then back to me. Surprise mixing with something else. Relief, maybe. An internship? She said, almost a laugh. After everything? Everything's why, I said, leaning forward. You want real? This is it. Take it or leave it. She was quiet, her hands twisting, then nodded. I'll take it. Lewis raised a brow but didn't argue, just handed her a stack of order forms. Start here, he said, his tone gruff but fair. Learn the flow. Clara took them, her face unreadable, and got to work. I watched, my chest tight, not with victory, but with something softer, harder to name. This wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was a chance, fragile as thread, for her to rebuild what she'd broken. The next weeks were strange. Clara showed up, quiet, focused, sorting orders, learning from artisans. She didn't push, didn't charm, just worked. Maria warmed to her, teaching her to weave. Javier showed her how to glaze. She's not bad, Lewis said one night, locking up. Got your grit buried deep. I smiled, but my guard stayed up. That tip, her sale, still nagged. Sarah Tate's latest article confirmed it. Morgan and Company was in advanced talks with a conglomerate. No deal signed, but close. Clara hadn't mentioned it, and I didn't ask. Trust was earned, not given, and she had a long way to go. But Golden Era soared, untouched by her shadow. Our second collab launched, sales doubling, and I announced another 10% of profits for women over 50, cementing our mission. Clara watched, silent, her eyes holding something new. Respect, maybe. I didn't push her to talk. Some bridges rebuild slow. One evening, I found her at the workbench sketching a pillow, her lines shaky but earnest. It's not great, she said, catching my eye. It's a start, I said, and meant it. We didn't hug, didn't cry. We just stood there, two women with scars, choosing work over words. I sat at the farmhouse later, my notebook closed, that tip still unplayed. Clara's internship wasn't the end. It was a beginning, one I hadn't expected. Morgan and Company might sell, might fade, but Golden Era was mine. And now maybe hers too, in time. I'd fought not for revenge, but for peace, for a legacy that outlasted pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over revenge. If you made it this far, thank you. What would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and please subscribe if my story moved you. Let's keep growing together.